Very, very good morning, students. Today we will continue with the lecture of business law as we are discussing yesterday. So actually the lecture is of financial derivatives, but due to, as we know that we are on the important topic of business law, so we will continue with the business law today and we will adjust this lecture on some other days. So now continuing with the topic where we have left yesterday of the business law, we will now I'm going to start with the presentation where we have left yesterday. Till yesterday, we have discussed this. That is the difference between the public company and the private company and the public company. So, what are the features? What are the benefits? What are the prerequisites for the company to become a public company, and what are the things to become a private company? So, we have discussed all these things till yesterday. Now, continuing with the topic. Now we are going to start the topic that is the conversion of the private company into the public company. Now it is allowed under the Companies Act to convert the private company into the public company. As you know that there are various restrictions on the uh, there are various restrictions on private company, whereas public company is having the various benefits which are given under the Company Act. So to now, if sometimes if a private company seems that there was an opportunity to expand the business and there is the requirement of financial resources, so they may opt to go for the public subscription. So if a company wants to go for the public subscription, then this company has to be converted first into the public limited company, and only after that this com- the company can go for the public subscription and change its name from private to public. Now there are various things by which a company can be converted into a public company. Now it can be by default, it can be by statutory requirements or on request. So first we will start today with the conversion of private into public company by the default, which is given under the section 14 of the Companies Act 2013. So under this act, if when when the company fulfills some prerequisite conditions or due to some act of the company may become the private public company by default. A private company may become a public company by default. So what are the cases in which this can be done? First, a private company can enjoy the certain privileges as long as it complies with the requirement of section 268. So a private company, if it is complying this, it will be having all the privileges of the private company. But if they don't comply with that, this section, that is 268, in which all the things regarding the private company has been explained, then it by default it becomes a public company. Second, if any default is made in complying with the provisions of the act, that is under section 268, the company will be regarded as a public company. For example, if the company goes for the public borrowing, so the company has done the default because under the section 268 of the Company Act 2013, it has been defined that the private company cannot go for the public borrowings. So if the company go for the public borrowings, then under this, then due to default in complying of the provisions of the Companies Act, the company can be converted into the public company. Now next, however, the company may be relieved from the consequences on the application of to the central government if they have already applied to central government. Central government, on being satisfied with the default, was not willful and is justified and equitable. So sometimes the company by mistake has done some of the default. So such default is made which will not affect the government and which is not a willful. It may be a default by mistake because there are various things which we are already discussed is the wrong. One is the mistake, one is the fraud, one is the willful default, one is the unwillful default. So if the default or mistake was unwillful, then and if the government find it equitable and justified that the company has not done this willfully, it has been done by the default has been done by the some of the uh, technical problems or some of such circumstances which cannot be avoided. And if the government is justified with that, then the government will convert the private company into the public company. Next, conversion by choice. Now, first is by default. Default means that if such act is done by the company, that by default its name has been changed. But now there are sometimes the conversion now, as I have already discussed, that sometimes it happens that the company which is acting as a private company want to change its status to the its status to the public company, because the public company is having the very much benefits which the private company does not have. One is the public company can go for public subscription, whereas a private company cannot go for the public subscription. So this is the one case. So here a private company may be deliberately choose to become a public company, a private company, to become a public company if it deletes the articles of requirements and restrictions in section 268 by passing a special resolution. Now, every year, the company, either public or private, has to hold a AGM, one AGM, that is annual general meeting. So, when the annual general meeting is done, in that case, if a public company deliberately choose to or voluntarily want to become a public company, a private company want to become a public company, then it can put the resolution in the AGM, that is annual general meeting, and get the resolution passed. And by passing the special resolution in AGM with full quorum, then the company can go for the then company will change the articles of association, AOAs and MOAs, and then it will remove the provisions of section 268, that is a private company, to become a public company. Next, the company will cease to be private company from the date of alteration of articles. Now, the company will be as it will be a private company from the if the articles of associations are altered, but till now it has not been given the status of public company by the ROC, that is the registrar of company. Now next, it has to file with the registrar a prospectus or a statement in lieu of prospectus. Now, as we know that every public company has to publish the prospectus. So prospectus will contain all the information regarding the companies, regarding the working of the company, its financial statements, its rules, regulations, details of directors, details of business places, type of products the company is producing, and a past history. All these things are published. All these things are being published in the prospectus. So prospectus is the one of we can say that it is a statement, or it is an introduction to the public regarding the functioning and all the things regarding the company. So here the company, if the company want to become a public company from the private company, then first they have to file the prospectus or a statement in lieu of prospectus, that will be distribution to the public, and a copy of special resolution which has been passed in the AGM within the 30 days of becoming the public company. So within that, within the change of status of the company, when the status of company gets changed, within the 30 days, the company has to file these things with the ROC. The first thing is the prospectus statement in, if prospectus is available, then prospectus, otherwise statement in lieu of prospectus, and copy of the special resolution which has been passed to convert the company into the public company. Next, if the numbers of members are less than 7, then it must be raised to 7. As we know that in the case of public company, the minimum number of members should be 7, whereas in the case of private company, the minimum number of members will be 2. So here, the company has to raise the number of members from 2 to 7. First thing, if the number of directors are less than 3, then it must be raised to 3. Now, as we know that the under this section of the Companies Act, it has been defined that the public company must have 3 directors, and private company may have one director or 2 directors. Whereas, so if the directors are less than 3, and the companies go for the voluntary conversion into the private company go for the voluntary conversion into the public company, then in that case, if the direct number of directors are less than 3, then the number must be raised to 3. Second, the word private should be deleted from the name. Now, as we know that company has become the public limited company, so the name private should be deleted from the name. Next, conversion doesn't affect the legal personality of the company. Now, legal personality means the actually existence of the company. Now, if Mr. a person's name is Mr. Harsh, so if although he is living where, what is the status? He's married, unmarried. Now he will remain Harsh after during his whole lifetime. So here the legal personality means the name of the company, but yet just there was the one change in the name of company, that is the change in that is the removal of private limited from the name, whereas the legal personality of the company will remain same and it will not change. Next, now next type of company. Now we have discuss that how the public company can be converted into the private company. One is if any default is done, and second is if voluntarily converted, if the company wants to convert it from the private company to the public company. Next, holding company, holding or subsidiary company, holding and subsidiary company. These are two another type of companies which we are going to study now. Holding company is the company which is the parent company, and it is holding the another concerns or another subsidiaries of that company. Now let's take an example. Now if as the Vodafone India is the company in India which is having the holding company as Vodafone PPL in the England, that is in the Great Britain, UK. So that is the holding company of the Indian Vodafone subsidiary. So it is an example of holding company and the subsidiary company. Although this is a foreign company, although it is a foreign holding company and subsidiary company, all, but it is, we can give the example here that what is the meaning of holding company and what is the meaning of subsidiary company. Now let's take another example. As we know that a Tech Mahindra, although they have acquired the Satyam Computers, now here Tech Mahindra is the holding company and Satyam Computer is the subsidiary company. Now next let's take another example. Let For example, State Bank of India. Now it is holding a Yes Bank. Now here in the case, now either the reason may be why it is holding, irrespective of that reason. Now the SBI, State Bank of India, is the holding company and Yes Bank is its subsidiary company. So these are some of the examples that exist in India about the holding company and the subsidiary company. So according to section 2, subsection 87 of Companies Act 2013, the holding company is which one? Now, which company is known as a holding company? It controls the composition of board of directors of the another company, that is the subsidiary company. Now, as we have recently, as in recent days, it was published in newspaper that the board of Yes Bank has been liquidated or dismissed by the State Bank of India, and they have appointed their own director after the Yes Bank becomes a subsidiary of SBI. Now here again, now the control the composition of board of director of another company, that is subsidiary, is with the holding company. So the company which is having the board of director holding the subsidiary company is known as the holding company. That is, no director can be appointed or removed without its consent. Now in the subsidiary company, as the example of Yes Bank, now neither of its director can be appointed without the consent of SBI, neither its director can be removed without the consent of SBI. So we have, with example, we have explained this. Next, second point, it holds more than 50% of nominal value of equity capital of another company, that is subsidiary. Now, if the company is holding more than 50% shares of the another company, then again it is known as the holding company, and the company of which that a holding company is holding the share will be known as the subsidiary company. So here the rule is that the holding company should hold more than 50% shares of the subsidiary company. Next, where the company, now we have explained with the example. On the next slide we are having this slide. Now here this is the explanation of the slide, where a company Z is the subsidiary company of another company Y. So here the company Z is a subsidiary of another company, that is the Y. So it is a holding company and this is a subsidiary company. Whereas H is the holding company of S, or the X is the holding company of S. So here we can also conclude that if this is holding company of this and this is holding company of this, it means that this is subsidiary of this and this is subsidiary of this. This implies that Z is also a subsidiary of X, which is the main controlling company. So in another word, we can say that H is the subsidiary company of X is the subsidiary company of Z, because again this is the holding company of this and this is the holding Y is the holding company of Z. So X also enjoys the right of holding company of Z as well as Y. So or directly we can say that it is the holding company of Z too. Now next type of company, that is the next important type of company, that is the government company. We will going to discuss this also, which company is known as the government company. Now the next important topic we are going to start, as we have already discussed, is the government company. Now what is the government company? Under the section 245, that is section 2 subsection 45 of Companies Act 2013, a government company means the company in which not less than 51% of share capital is held by. So here, if only and only if the more than 51% of share capital of the company is held by state government, central government, or both of the government, then it will be known as the government company. Now, the provision first is if it is more than a share 51% shareholding is held by central government, first case, any state government or governments, that is either one state government or jointly by a two or more than two state governments. Next, partially by the central government and partially by one or more state government. Now here, one party is the central government and another are the either it may be one state government or it may be more than one state government. So next is that third. Now under this there are two sub provisions that we must know before doing this. That is the shares held by municipal and another local authorities are not to be taken into consideration, because if the shares are held by any of the municipal corporation of the particular district, then it will be not it should not be considered. So for example, let's take an example. If there was a company in which 51% of the shareholding is held total, out of 51% shareholding, the 40% shareholding is held by the state government and 11% shareholding is held by the municipal corporation or the local authorities. Now this company will be not be known as the government company, because while considering the government company, it should be controlled or held by the central government, state government, state governments, central government and one state government, or a central government plus more than one state government. So we will not take into the consideration. Second, a subsidiary of government company is also government company. Second is that a subsidiary, if any company is subsidiary of government company, then again it is known as the subsidiary. It is known as the government company. Next, what are the special provisions that are applicable to government company that we will discuss one by one? First is the appointment of auditors. Now, as we know that every company has to get its financial statements audited from the competent authorities. Now, if in the case of private company, a public company, the audit can be done as by the independent auditors or the auditors appointed by the private company or the public company as they deem fits. Now, here in the case of government company, the appointment of there was special provision for the appointment of auditors, audit report, audit presentation. All the things are different in the case of government company, as in the case of private company and in the case of public company they are different, but in the case of government company they are different. So first provision is now the special provision which is applicable to government company is the appointment of the auditors. Now who will be the auditor? Auditors shall be appointed or reappointed by the Controller and Auditor General of India. Now who is going to audit? That is CAG. Now CAG will either do itself the audit of the company or they will appoint the auditor for the government company. Next, CAG will direct the manner in which the accounts is to be audited. Now the CAG will give the detailed introduction of the things to be followed by auditing the account of the government company. So all the things, all the directions of the CAG should be applicable while auditing the account of the government company. Next, CAG has power to conduct supplementary or test audit. Now in the government company, at any point of time, if CAG found, that is the Controller and Auditor General of the India, if they found that they want and to have a conduct a supplementary audit, because if as the statutory audit there may be some lackings or lack out, to avoid that lackings, that is the lackings, the government will may conduct a supplementary or a test audit through CAG. Next, audit report selection. Now audit report section. Now next is the audit report. Now what we will do with that? Next is auditor shall submit audit report to CAG. Now as CAG will appoint a auditor, so the report will be submitted to CAG, that is the Controller and Auditor General. Next, CAG may supplement or comment on the audit report. Now the CAG is having power either to accept or to change the audit report or to comment on the audit report if it found something misleading or some information is missing or which is not up to the mark. Next, the audit report along with CAG comment supplements shall be placed before the AGM. Now, in the case of government companies, again there are directors and there are members, as there were some provisions of the public companies also. So it all the audited results that are with CAG comments and supplements shall be placed in annual general meeting of the company, as it is mandatory for all the companies, either it is OPC, under Section 8, a government company, private company, government company, or foreign company, all the companies have, if they are acting in the India, if they are commencing their business in the India, they have to uh, do the annual general meeting once in a year, which is important. So, and all the things and subject matters are discussed in that AGM. So here, audit report along with CAG comment supplement shall be placed before the and in the annual general meeting. Next, annual reports. In case of central government is the member government company, an annual report on the working and affairs of the company shall be laid down before both the houses of parliament, that is Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, along with audit report and comments or supplements of CAG. Now, if now after that it has been placed in the AGM annual general meeting and the report is finalized, now the actual report, which is with comments and supplements of CAG, shall be put in the both of the houses and laid before the both of the houses for the discussion and to be accepted. In case of state government or governments, is the members of the government company, the annual report on the working and the affairs of the government company shall be laid before state legislature of respective states along with audit report comment of CAG. Now here it is if it maintained if the 51% of shareholding is held by the one state government or the another state government, then it is first it is laid before the state legislature, and secondly it will be again laid before the one and more state legislature in case the the shareholding is held by more than one state government. And if it is held partially by the state government and partially by the central government, then again in the both houses of that is in the parliament, this is Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, and the state legislature, all in all these three houses the report has to be submitted. Now next, there are some notes regarding the report that is of the government company. First, the central government may by notification in the official gazette. Now it is the official gazette with the government published direct that any of the provisions shall not apply or apply with the such exceptions, modifications and adaptations as will be specified to the government companies. Now, as we have already discussed, the government companies having the special provisions. So all the acts are given in the special legislature or in the or in the special instructions given by the government under the official gazette of the government of India. Now here, if something is not written in that, then the government company has to follow the rules of Companies Act 2013. Either all the things which are stated in the notification of the official gazette when the government company was established by the government under the act of the which under the special act it has been incorporated, all the rules and regulations are to be adopted, and the government may alter the some of the rules of Companies Act for the government companies as specified by the government. Next, government companies to delete is permitted to delete the word private from its name. For example, if any company which is a private company is converted into the government company, for example, government in the before 1990s, the government has acquired many of the banks. The example is the Punjab and Sindh Bank. Earlier, it was Bank of Punjab, and now, when it was a private bank. When it was sorry, Punjab and Sindh Bank. So first it was a private bank. Now when the government by the special gazette make that the government bank. Now the name that first is Punjab and Sindh Bank Private Limited. Now nowadays we will only study the Punjab and Sindh Bank because by passing a by passing a notification in the gazette of the government of India, the word private has been deleted from the name of the company because it has converted from private company to the government company. Next, government companies are non-statutory companies they they like any other company registered under the company Act. So they are the non-statutory companies, and even their their commencement or incorporation is written in the special act passed by the parliament, and it is not as by the company act. Next, employees of government employee companies are not the employees of union or state government. Now here this is the very important part we have to discuss, that if the person who is working as the government company cannot be claimed to be an employee of a central government or the state government. Let's take an example of BSNL, that or Hindalco, that is Hindustan Aluminium, SAIL, that is the Steel Authority of India. All these companies are held by the government, that Indian Oil Corporation, HPCL, your BPCL, all these companies are government companies. Although the employees of these companies are not said to be the employees of union or the state government. It is the case, a case which has been given, that is the Praga Tool Corporation versus CB in all AIR 1969. It was a case in which the person claims that a Praga Tools Corporation is the corporation which is a government company, and the person cases that files a case that he is the employee of the center and the state government. So, but the government denies by saying that it has been written it has been written under the special resolution, under the special, in the official gazette or and the Companies Act also, that the employees of the government companies are not the employees of the union government or the state government, even when all the shareholding of the company is held by the state government or by the central government or jointly by the state government or governments. And in that case also, these employees are not to be considered as the employee of the center or the state government. Next, government companies are not agents of the central government or the state government. This was another case, that is the State Trading Corporation of India Limited versus Commercial Tax Officer, AIR 1963. This means that if there are government companies, they are not the agents of the central and state government. They are working according to the notifications in the official gazette, but they are not the agencies of the government. They are a separate legal companies, which although these are held and controlled by the government, but it does not mean that they are the agents of the government. Now, next, a government company, like any other company, may wound up under the Companies Act. Now, if the company want to get wind up, then it is allowed under the Companies Act, like in other companies too. The next important topic is the foreign corporations or the foreign company, which are given under the section 2, subsection 42 of the Companies Act 9 2013 or the earlier acts. Now, what I mean with the earlier act, because of before the 2013 the Companies Act, the companies are registering and incorporating under the Companies Act 1956, but now it has been changed to 2013. Now, next, a company body corporate a company or a body corporate incorporated outside the India having first. Now, which company will be known as the foreign company? First company, the company which is incorporated outside the India. First thing, that its main holding company must not be in India. It may be in some other country. Next, and having a place of business in India. Now, a foreign company for India will be the company which is having the business, or it is incorporated in any other country, but they are having the place of business in India, whether itself or through an agent physically or through electronic mode. So all these provisions we will discuss later on. So if any company which is incorporated outside India and it is doing a business practices in India, either by in the physical form or through its agent or by the electronic mode, then it is known as the foreign company. Next, it conducts any business activity in India in any other manner. Now, irrespective of the above modes, if the company conducts its business in some any other mode, then again it is known as the foreign company. However, we are not less than now. What are the conditions? However, not less than the 50% paid of the paid up share capital of the company incorporated outside India, having an established place in India. Now, if the company is established some in another country and it's doing its business in India, then of that subsidiary company, more than 50% of the paid up share capital should be with the foreign company. It is held none or more Indian citizens by one or more companies incorporated in India. So the maximum limit is that in India it can be 50% and outside it can be 50%. It shall comply with the provisions of act as may be prescribed if it was a company incorporated in India. So if the company is incorporated in India and if it is 50 more than 50% shareholding is held by some foreign company, again then it is known as the foreign company. Next, the companies, that is registration of foreign companies rule 2014 defines electronic mode. Now, as we know, as we have discussed that company by the electronic mode. Now, what is meaning of electronic mode? As carrying out electronically based, whether main server is installed in India or not, including but not limited to. So these are the provisions under the rules 2014 of the Companies Act regarding the electronic mode, because today the e-commerce business is trending. So everyone wants to enter in that business, that is selling the products electronically. So In the Companies Act 1956, nothing is written regarding this, and in the Companies Act 2013, as the time changes and as per the requirements of the time, the act is amended and new things has been introduced in this act. So now it should what it should include, but not limited to, the thing first is business to business and business to B2B and B2C transactions, data interchange and other digital supply transaction. First thing. Second, offering to accept deposit or inviting deposits or accepting deposits or subscription and security in India from the citizens of India. Second thing. Third, financial settlements, web-based marketing, advisory and transactional services, database services, and product supply chain management. Product and supply chain management. Again, it should be included, but these are not limited to. Means that some things more may be included in this. Next, online services such as telemarketing, telecommunicating, telemedicine, education, and information research. Again, this will be known as the foreign company. All the related data communication services. These transactions may be conducted by email, mobile devices, social media, cloud computing, document management, voice or data transmission, or otherwise. So, under the Companies Act 2013 to 2014, the electronic mode include all these things. Either the server is installed in India or no, but it will include all these things. Next, a company has an established business plan in India if it has a specific identifiable place at which it carries the business, such as office, store, house, godown, or such other premises, with some visible sign or the physical indications that the company has concrete connection with the particular premises. So again, that will be known as the foreign company. Now, as regards the status of company, the law of place of incorporation applies, but in the case of contractual and other obligations, the law of place of business alone will apply. So these are the things which will relate to the foreign companies. Now, next is the rules under the Companies Act 2013 applicable to the foreign companies. First is regarding the documentation. That is section 380 of Companies Act 2013. First thing, that is every foreign company within the 13 days of establishing a business in India shall furnish to registrar the following documents for the registration. Now, it is mandatory for any foreign company which is entering in India or establishing a business place in India has to furnish the following information within the 30 days of the commencement of business. Now, what are these prerequisites? First is a certified copy of charter, if in the case of charter company, a statute, MOA, Memorandum of Association, AOA in English language, or certified translate copy in English language if original document is not in English language. Let's take an example. For example, a Renault India Limited. Now it is a company related to the France, and all the things has been written in the language of the France. So here, if that company wants to enter into India, so they have to submit the certified copies of all their charter, statute, MOA, AOA in English, because it was not in English. So they will submit the certified copies. Now, what is the meaning of certified copy? Certified copy means the translation is actual and authentic. There is nothing which has been misinterpreted while translation of the language. So the certified copies of the documents, if it is in English, then fine. If it is not in English, then it has to be translated into English, and then it has to get certified, and then it has to be submitted with the registrar of the company. Next, the full address of the registered office of the company. Now, full address of registered office of the company means the address, that is the physical address in India, and the address where the holding company is of the country where the actual holding company is commencing or has been incorporated. Next, a list of directors and secretary of the company with particulars as name, nationality, etc. So all this information is to be submitted to the registrar of company. Now next is name and address of persons resident in India authorized to accept the services of legal processes and notices. Now, who is certified in India to accept the services of legal process and notices? Who is going to act in India in the behalf of that company? The name and address of that person, and if that resident of India is more than one, then the name and addresses of all the persons. And next is the full address of principal of business place in India. Now, where the company is going to commence its business practices in India. So that's all for today. We have discussed till here, that is the rules of the Company Act 2013 applicable for the foreign company. Further, if you are having any query, you can send a comment, or you can WhatsApp through the message, or or any other mode by email, etc. Thank you.